Hi guys, this is Alan from Aqua Clear Water SA. Welcome. Today's topic is about the lifespan of tropical fish, the lifespan of fish in general. We can look at fish in general, our tropical fish that we keep at home. We can give them a lifespan between 2 and 5 years. It's it's not that long, but it's if you consider fish coming from bigger fish like a catfish, which could live up to 60 years, you get different types of species that live a lot longer. But we are bringing them into an environment which is not really natural, and the body of water that we keep them in isn't exactly the same as where they come from instinctively, from where they really come from in the wild. I'm sure they're born on farms, but they still have their natural instinct within them. We can look at goldfish, just our normal little goldfish, and our koi, which have a lifespan of between 25 and 35 years. That's quite a long time. I saw something the other day on a champion goldfish or a koi fish. It was sold at $1.5 million. It was pretty impressive. It was quite big, but a couple of months later it died. I don't know how it died or what the problem was. It could have been a problem, but it could have been old. It could have been 15, 20 years old, and the person didn't really know about it. We look at certain species in the world. The old coelacanth, the prehistoric fish that lives in deep waters. It's not predated upon because it's so deep. It was found at the turn of the century, and they live up to about 100 years, but their metabolisms are very slow. They're big fish, but they live up to a long, long time. Pike, probably 7 to 10 years. Our parameters, our water and our tropical tanks, they stay constant to a constant temperature, whereas in the wild, you got your underwater currents, and the top may be warm, it may be tropical in a tropical area, the midsection may be cooler and the bottom is cold. So they can adjust to certain temperatures, and we keep them in a constant state all the time. We're trying to the best of our ability, keep them healthy and keep them in a natural state, but we can't do that with the body of water that we keep, no matter how big it is. I mean, if we had a 6,000 liter tank, it's still not going to do the same justice as it does in a natural ecosystem or a natural state. We try our best, but we get pretty close, but we try and copy what nature has, but we can't get it to the exact parameters as it is in the wild. So fish tend to live a lot longer, but depends on the species, of course, because if they're predated upon, they live shorter lives. But they have more places to hide, and the water's brackish. It's not the same. It's not like our colors. Our water's clear. We try and keep it clear so we can see and enjoy it. But the thing is, we need to keep our fish happy. We need to look after them. We need to check their behavior. We need to make hiding spaces for them, rocks, wood, bogwood, little caves, plants. A lot of fish don't like a lot of light. A lot of fish like to hide. If you find fish being bullied the whole time, that'll stress them out, and that's gonna just lower their lifespan, because they're going to be stressed the whole time, and they're going to be picking up diseases. The immunity is not going to be great. The immunity in fish is a lot less than animals and mammals anyway. So they're not as robust as land animals or land mammals. So we need to keep them happy and look after them and see their colors, obviously, and see their behaviors. Don't get worried, if your fish die on you. We all go through that all the time. Newcomers to the fish hobby, it's always happening, because you got to get used to your parameters. You got to get used to fish keeping. Basically, it's a time of learning. It's a learning curve that you've got to go through. I fish. If you've been a fish keeper for 25 years, you can still have loss of fish through problems. It doesn't mean to say if you're new or old to the game that your fish are going to live longer. If they're not living for if they're dying over after a couple of weeks or after a couple of months, then we know there's a problem. Surely there's a problem. That's not the way they're supposed. That's not the way of living at all. I mean, when you go to buy fish, try not to buy big fish, because they've been living for a year and a half or 2 years. Some people bring they say they've got angels, and they don't want these big angels anymore. They take them back to the fish store. They may swap it, or they just give them back to the fish store. And you go there and you see these beautiful big fish, but they've been living for 2-3 years, and then you put them in your tank and they die after 2 months. And so rather go for smaller fish, because it's nice to see them grow anyway. Go for new smaller fish. And it's a learning curve, guys. It's a guessing game. We don't really understand how long fish live. Catfish live to about 60 years. It just depends. It depends on their metabolisms. Oscars, maybe your cichlids live a little bit longer. Your clown loaches live a little bit longer. Whereas your bettas live very short lives. Not very short, but shorter lives. It depends on the metabolism of the fish. So physically speaking, the physical size of a fish matters in a way, but not always. I mean, we look at an elephant and a mouse. An elephant's heartbeat may have the same beats as a mouse, and the mouse may live for 2 years, whereas the elephant, it's got to have a stronger heartbeat because it's a lot bigger, but its metabolism's a lot slower, and it'll live to 80 years. So it just depends on the fish, or on the variety, or on the species. But we mustn't be too upset if you do lose fish. You live and learn. You live and learn through this hobby. We try our best to keep our hobby going, and we as best as we can. We try our best to keep everything healthy, but problems are going to arise. In bigger volumes of water, it's more forgiving. As I was saying last week, bigger is better, because your bigger volumes of water are a lot better. It's more forgiving. And whereas smaller volumes of water, they are a lot less forgiving, because something goes wrong, or chemical imbalance or whatever, your fish start dying. Whereas in larger volumes of water, it's more forgiving, and the fish have got more of a chance to live through that, because it just gets dissolved into the water column, and the fish don't get affected by that. So it's a challenge sometimes, but once it's set up, it's going fine. But it runs fine on its own, and it's so nice when it runs well, and everything looks after itself, and everything's working together, and the plants are working, and they are giving off minerals, and they're taking in minerals, and they're growing, and your fish are growing, and they're giving off carbon dioxide, which is feeding your plants, and it's the whole system's going well, your pumps are going well, but sometimes you have little problems, but that's nothing to worry about, because everyone goes through those teething problems, especially when you're a beginner, and it's a learning curve, and you must know that most fish only live between 2 to 5 years. I've had some cichlids that have lived for probably 5 years at the most. But that's in a captured environment, in an environment like our aquarium. Okay, guys, but thanks for joining, and I hope it was interesting. And yes, subscribe would be nice. Hit the like button, and we'll see you next week for another program. Probably I'd like to talk on fish color next time. Bye.